It was pretty snazzy.
Yeah, I was just waiting for the beat to drop though.
Yeah, no. It's about a 3.5 minute song, and I didn't bring in that part. Welcome, 212. 212.
Right? We're not doing the second part of that anymore. It's just like countdown and boom, faces. Let's go.
Yeah, let's just get the show on the road.
All right. Jump scares for everybody.
Well, it's just because like StreamYard has this new intro and outro thing. You just plug the video thing in there, and you just let it do its thing.
Yeah. You did great.
Getting better at this job every time. Technology is getting better.
That's right.
So obviously, us three back again. Hopedale coming up.
Yeah.
If everybody hasn't seen all the posts by Mitch, Al, all those guys doing a great job out there.
Absolutely.
They are full.
How scary was the Sly photo today? Like, I'm pretty sure he's not allowed to hunt in Cano County on Halloween. Like, it's...
Well, and Sly's not even going, right? Because Quebec has their trials, right?
That's a mismarketing thing, eh? I mean,
I definitely did not see this photo.
It's disturbing. Yeah. But that being said, let's give a shout out to those guys in Ontario. What a great job they've done with building it all up. They're full. Like they can't get any better, right?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Found it.
We should have pulled it up on the podcast. That seems silly of us.
Oh, I mean, we absolutely can.
Well, Dexter's finding that. People now will be able to go to nebsfunworld.com/club-tour and get the live updates of the club tour as it's being played. They're updating to a website now, so live scores and all that fun stuff. Another addition to their tour. It's pretty cool. They got 4 shifts going, both Friday, both Saturday.
Like, hold on, let me zoom in on that. Like, that's...
Why is he staring at the camera? That's what I want to know.
You know which one they should have done is the Max Beauchamp one.
Where he's pointing. It's like he's so happy to punch you. You know?
Yeah. Interesting.
I like it.
Yeah. Hopedale's notoriously tough scoring, so hopefully everybody gets to watch the rough scoring going on through live.
They put on new bases last year, though, right? Didn't they?
That's what they said, yeah.
So, hopefully it's better.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I've never had the privilege to bowl out there, so I can't commit or can't say what I want to. I can't say how bad it is, but I hope it's better for everybody else because I know there's a lot of enjoyment going out there when it's tough.
Yeah,
it's better to go to Hopedale than no Hopedale.
Wow, that's a pretty snazzy joke you came up with there.
No, you're right. I mean, they should be grateful that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd love to go out there one day, though. I wouldn't mind having it be a challenge. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah,
it's the people that stay mentally strong the whole time that'll be okay.
You say that
with the Manitoba Open.
Yeah. I don't mind it. I don't find it all that bad there at St. James, though. I mean, it's definitely not the easiest center on tour, but I don't find it all that bad.
Okay,
yeah. Go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
I kind of want to touch base here a little bit. Dexter says, I like to have a challenge. And those people usually, when they have the challenge and it turns out to be complete shit, they want to renege on it. So, I mean, if you're going out there and you end up shooting 1,700, you'll be like, don't like the challenge. It was pretty bad. You know what I'm saying?
Guys, I just played Central Open at Camrose for one day. And I like a challenge, and I totally renege. I hate challenges. I was absolutely a debacle.
Do you know what?
We should try to be more honest on this podcast.
Let's be honest. It was great going to Camrose. It's nice to go to different centers and support it. It was just maybe 100%. A little tough.
They were great hopes.
Yes, but it was tough. I went and watched the youth challenge there before, and it was, I can tell like it was going to be a little bit tougher, right? Glad we missed it. Yeah, I mean, I know you averaged 215.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Hey, after the whole thing, I was back up to 240. That's not horrible.
No, you did very well at Red Deer. And, before anybody else finds out about this from the Frames of Shame, you know what? I can make fun of Kerry all he wants. I threw a gutter ball.
He did throw a gutter ball.
And it didn't even hit the lane. It went straight into the gutter.
Tim, I will say I did have a 0 on one of my first balls as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard.
It wasn't from throwing a gutter, though.
Foul?
They have shields.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It must have hit the foul line or something to pop up.
I hit the foul line and smoked the shield out. Got a 0 on a double, which was like one of the 4 doubles I had all day. So that really sucked. But
that's the second time I've seen you throw a dash this year.
This year, really?
Yeah.
Did I throw another one?
Well, yeah. On Thursdays when you were going for the strike it rich, and you threw it right between the pins. On a set that looked totally fine, honestly.
Guys, Sherwood Bulls maintenance is top notch. Top notch. You can't throw it between the pins at all, throwing as hard as I do. Oh yes.
I cannot believe it. It was one of the wildest things I've seen. It was so clean through the pins, and they didn't even look offset. And I was like, holy cow! It was bizarre. It's like one of those quantum mechanics things where, like, in quantum mechanics, if you hit things just at the right time, you could go clean through them, right?
Yeah, it didn't touch a single molecule.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're going off topic. So Tim threw a gutter ball at the Open. Yikes.
Weber threw a deuce.
Wow, that's got. Why isn't that on Frames of Shame?
A right deuce.
So, in all fairness, when I stuck pretty bad, right? And even Dexter.
He played it up pretty good. I didn't see him stick, but I saw him like hunched over at the foul line, and he played it up really good by coming back and asking for some Advil. I mean that's truly a veteran move. I don't know. He just kind of hunched over and just took it.
Oh, I was in pain. But then Rich was very kind about it. He's like, I was going to take a photo of it, but I didn't know how it was appropriate. I was like, you might as well just give it to the Frames of Shames boys, and they were very happy. Yeah.
You still use those SST tanks, don't you, Tim?
Yeah.
Are they falling apart yet?
Oh, they are. Yeah.
Yeah. Shelby still has those too, and they are falling apart. I don't know why you guys are still using those things. They fell apart like week 2.
Yeah, he snapped 2 pairs, and they refused to send him a new one.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm going to see Shelby this weekend, and I'm going to have a talk with Shelby. Okay. Now that I know that his shoes are cracked, because I asked him about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, hey, did your shoes crack? And he's like, no. And I was like, oh, okay, because I heard they were cracking. And you know what he told me? He's like, Tim, I'm not a fat fuck. So now that I know Shelby's shoes are cracked, me and him have got to have a conversation.
Yeah, definitely. But they're definitely cracked.
We're definitely off topic again, but like that was the worst marketing for shoes ever. I've never like the one pair of shoes they named tanks, and they all came completely messed up. I never heard of a single person have a good experience with the tanks.
No, they're a nice shoe. Like
they are nice
like the push away shoe, super nice. But the slide shoe, absolute crap.
Terrible.
But
yeah.
Unreal. Anyways, so Hopedale. So everybody watch it. Good luck to those guys going out there. And if anybody doesn't know, we are live streaming Youth Challenge Provincials for Alberta this weekend, starting Friday and Saturday. So
yeah.
We're running 2 streams. So the main stream will be on Facebook and YouTube. And then the second stream will just be on one of our YouTube channels. You can go to the website or Facebook. We'll post all about it and share it and all that stuff.
Super excited about it.
Honestly,
I think like there's a lot of kids there. It's fun. It's great to see the group out there. I know obviously Shelby's going to be running a first class event at Heritage. And I know Cindy and her crew have been working hard at their aspect on getting things sorted out. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it's going to turn out. I think it'd be just fine.
I'm
excited.
excited to see the scores. Scores should be awesome out of Heritage.
Yeah. And like honestly, out of all the provinces, I think we do Youth Challenge the best. Like, I think we're the only one that runs the Youth Challenge, and this. What other provinces run in the same format we do?
Northern Ontario, and Saskatchewan. Yes.
Saskatchewan does an
Newfoundland
open style as well.
Newfoundland does it too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's the way to go. I think it's on. I know there are some provinces that just have a qualifying round and call it a day, and you go to nationals. But I think having an open-esque style tournament is really important, especially for those kids that do want to be further their competitive career when they go into adults. At least they have that experience behind them. So I think it's great.
I think we got it really with the youth as the years went on, and I know our guests can probably talk about this too, but the provincials used to be high scoring, used to be super competitive, and it's not saying it's not anymore. There's still competitiveness to it, but a lot of these bowlers with the Youth Challenge used to be thinking about, okay, they're going to play the Open, they're going to play the Masters, they're going to play. We're gearing them up for that, and we still are. But I think you're looking at as well as, okay, these people might be interested in the IP. They might be interested in the teaching masters. There's other things now with the way Alberta does it. I think it gives avenues to all different skill levels instead of just the one stream now, right? So
yeah, it's definitely since you've doubled up the teams out of zones and stuff like that, it's definitely become more inclusive for all averages. Even though the end result is just sending the all-star team to nationals for scratch, but it gives all those players that might not have a chance to go to nationals in that aspect, but they get at least some play in a team format and prepare them for IP and all that stuff later on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I think there's no better time to bring in our guest. I know he's been a staple in Edmonton forever. Most of Alberta knows him, and obviously most of the country, but we're happy to have him on. But let's bring him right in. Mr. Ernie McLellan, how are you doing, sir?
Very good. Thank you.
Now that you heard us ramble and go off topic 3 or 4 times, it's your turn.
you know what you're in for.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a little history of myself. I am old. Let's tell everybody right now, I am opinionated. You guys know that anyway. So
yeah.
I started bowling when I was 14 in a 4-lane house. So I've been bowling just a little over 60 years. I bowled a couple years at NAIT while I was attending classes there. And if I recall, I think we were 8 years straight college champions. And while I was there, I was on the team for 2 years as college champions. Also played volleyball while I was there, and also was a college champion 1 year. I think it was 70 or 71. So I joined the Alberta Masters in 1976. Yeah.
A
while ago. I was in the tournament division. And a friend of mine a few years later after that said, why don't you start coaching and teaching youth bowlers? And that sounded good. So I went into the old NCCP program, and those who have taken it, the level 1, level 2. And I went all the way to level 3 theory. Then I went into the new program and became a course instructor. I've been doing that for 28 years. I've been fortunate in Alberta. I've had just slightly under 800 coaches have come to workshops in both Alberta and the Northwest Territories.
Wild.
I've been in the YBC program. This is my 44th year in the YBC program. When I became a level 3 or took the level 3 theory course, I always say I became a smarter coach. And shortly after that, I started a program which I called Gaining the Edge. And I started that in 2003. And I did it initially to bring youth bowlers to a very competitive level. Since then, it's sort of morphed into anybody who wants to learn more about the game has attended. And those bowlers who've been in that workshop or that clinic, it's a 12-week clinic, a lot of them have gone on to greatness. Some of them certainly have been national champions. I do have some great achievements I'd like to talk about, if that's
Sure.
okay.
Yeah, of course.
And I may name names.
Oh, you're gonna name drop here.
Yeah, I'm not name dropping. And some of the names you will not know anyway. But probably about 40 years ago, I had worked with a young fellow. His name was Billy Kunis here in Edmonton.
I miss Billy.
Billy was a real firecracker. Not a lot of coaches wanted to work with him, but I did. And he reminds me of the time that he had to bowl against Bruce Mortar at a national event, and he lost all 10 frames, but he really enjoyed that.
That was TSN's, right?
It was TSN's, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And there have been many bowlers over the years that I've worked with. Some are just regular bowlers. Some of the bowlers you'll know, regular bowlers like my now dental hygienist, who reminded me after I saw her after 25 years that I had coached her that long time ago at, in fact, Sherwood Park.
Dominique?
Dominique.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that was a shock. There have been other well-known kids that Tracy Smith was one. I worked with for her for a while. Probably the better known ones, the Tic Cat Boys.
Mm-hmm.
Bradley was in my workshop, and Tyler would practice his slide at Bonnie Doon in between the benches for probably nearly a year. The following year, when I started the program again, Bradley came to me and said, I want to be in this workshop I was doing the clinic. And I asked him why, because I'd never had taken anybody that young before. And he said, I wanted to learn how to do it. So he was one of the first youngest kids I ever had in the program. In 2006, I had 3 bowlers going to the Nationals as singles that I'd worked with. One a bantam and 2 juniors. And one of the juniors was Jen Baker. And I remember in the zones, in the second game in the zones, she had 22 after 2 frames. And being Jen, you know her, she got mad and said, I'm done. Because she just had thrown a $195 in the first game. But before the 5 games was over, she had averaged 260.2. So you can imagine what she threw for the next 5 games, next 3 games. And she went on to win the gold at the Nationals in Sudbury that year too. Then again in 2018, I had the chance to coach Jen again. I had been coaching the Northwest Territories Open team, the mixed open team, and Jen was in the single stepladder. And in the final game, she asked me to be her coach in the pit. So I changed bowling shirts, and I just stood there and watched her win a gold medal again. I did not do anything at all, so she doesn't.
Honestly, Ernie, that is the perfect thing to do. All anybody wants down there is somebody that keeps them comfortable and happy, and that's it. That's it, right? So that's perfect. Good work.
But if they lose, that's the person they blame.
Oh, yeah.
So great job, Ernie.
Yeah. But Jen did teach me one thing. It's like, don't get a strike after a strike after you miss a corner pin spare. Because I think I'd probably been coaching her for about a year. She was 13 at the time. I believe it was 13. and we'd been bowling together, and I didn't spare a corner pin and followed with a strike. And for that first year that I worked with her, she probably didn't say 2 words. But after I got that strike, after that non-corner pin spare, you can imagine what she said. Nice count on your spare, dumbass.
Yep.
And the next thing I heard was her mother going, Jennifer. But every time I miss a corner pin and I come back to strike, I can hear her in my head.
Well, honeymoon's over.
Yeah. I see that. Yes. Thanks for that comment. Anyway, I think the next biggest thing was probably 2022-23, and that was getting it's still pretty emotional. The Fran Clark Coach of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on that year, the Canadian Grassroots Coach.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal for me because DB was the one who announced it.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim, you're the one that gave it to me.
Yeah.
And we go back quite a long ways.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
And now I'll tell you something about knowing your limitations as a coach. And probably you boys are maybe about 12 years old. And this is a shared park.
Mm-hmm.
And you are making the 4 Steps team. And I think Tom Stevenson, I don't think Tom was even coaching at that time, but he was in the bowling center. And I couldn't deal with you guys anymore. Because you weren't doing it my way. So I talked to Tom and said, Tom, will you take him over? And the rest is history. I know that. So as a coach, know your limitations, guys.
Well, and I think my dad talks about the same thing all the time. It's like, yeah, Tom just had a way of beating it into us. You know, and we were young and we were, a little rambunctious. We changed though.
Yeah.
Everybody that watches this podcast for the last 212 episodes know that's false.
Yep.
Yeah. Obviously, we've had a long connection together, Ernie, for a long time. Having the opportunity to present the award and to announce it on the Alberta level, it was quite something. Obviously, you know that I'm a bit of a historian, and not seeing you get recognized for that long was, I think, a travesty, and it was definitely well due. And I think part of my stuff that I enjoy the most is, yeah, we do a lot of work that we don't necessarily want to do, but those are the times that we live for, right? And seeing somebody's personal achievements be able to be accomplished and to be acknowledged, and it was a really great fit. Small world, obviously, we talk about it. Life goes around. Jen made singles for nationals, and we're hosting in Edmonton. And we lied to Ernie because we told Ernie that he needed to go there for Jen. And so we purchased the banquet ticket. And, of course, Jen being Jen, she didn't do up her side of the bargain, making the medals. So Ernie was there as a good sport because he already purchased the ticket. And it worked out really well at the end of the time. So it was awesome. So
The funny thing that I got a picture of DB he wanted a picture with the plaque.
mm-hmm.
And he sent me a picture later on, and I'm holding the plaque upside down.
That's all right. In that moment, you were not thinking about that in the least.
No, I wasn't. That's for darn sure. Yeah, that's right.
That's awesome. Honestly, like Tim said, super well deserved. You have been absolutely influential in bowling in Alberta in so many facets, whether it's coaching the YBC kids because you've had nothing but success with that. You're facilitating of coaches clinics. You're
Yeah,
facilitating
running
of
clinics.
judges clinics. Just the amount of like where would we be without you if it wasn't for you coach like teaching all these coaches and stuff too. 'Cause
Someone else would do it.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I've sat through a lot of your clinics because I did the level 1 and then I did the community sport. I've done the intro to comp. I've done the judges clinics, like, and all of them have been like super interesting. You've done an absolutely fantastic job with it.
Well, thanks.
But it's critical that we have someone like you do it, and it's a super thankless job. And we are very fortunate we've had you.
Yeah.
Had you do it.
Well,
Kind of funny, but before I got the award, I think jokingly I said I would keep coaching until I finally got the award.
Oh no, we heard that.
Well,
Here you go.
last year at Youth Challenge Provincials, I had a couple of coaches ask me when I was going to retire, and so I said, "What do you know that I know?" I think they heard the same rumor, but no, I'm going to reevaluate in 5 years.
Look, I
I'll
think
be 80 by then.
the most important thing is as long as you still have the passion for it, then do it. If somebody doesn't have the passion for it and they still do it, that's problematic. But if you love it, and I think you do, then just keep doing it until you can.
Well, I'd miss the hugs I get in the bowling center every time I walk in.
I don't remember the last time I've hugged you. Ernest. There's a few things that you talked about that I'd love to kind of touch on.
Yeah.
First, little 4-lane center. Where was that?
Rocky Mountain House.
Okay, awesome.
how many people do we have in Alberta originated from Central and moved away? A ton.
I think most of them.
The smart ones.
I actually,
Rocky
way back then, I made the high school team from Rocky Mountain House. We bowled in Central.
Okay.
Mhm.
So
Tim, what you were saying is all the good bowlers came from Central, is what you're saying.
I'm not gonna deny that. There's a lot of great players out of Central that have done well in Edmonton, particularly, right? It just maybe because of school and work and stuff like that, people decided that bigger place, right?
Big city opportunities.
Yep.
We've talked about this quite a bit, Ernie, but you talked about your level 3 theorem.
Yep.
Could you go a little bit into that? Because I don't even know how many people out there realize that there was a level 3 of sorts. And I desperately think that we need something like that again.
Well, in the old NCP program, it went to level 5, but that was coaches who wanted to coach internationally in some sports. A level 3 theory, I think it was something like 10 weeks, 4 hours a week. But in the end, we had to write a 1-year practice plan.
Okay.
And you can imagine in bowling, we don't plan anything until we actually probably make a team. Like that's when you start practicing. Who practiced, particularly the youth, who practiced before that happens?
Yeah.
That's why I thought I became smarter. That's when I developed my 12-week program that we actually work towards a goal. And a lot of the kids who went through that program make the 4 steps, or now the YBC National Championships, make the Youth Challenge teams. So that's why I became smarter. We're writing up that 1-year practice plan. It was like, what are we going to do for an entire year? How are we going to break it up? I mean, I had 2 nephews who swam, and they worked on a 2-year or 4-year program. 2 years for Can-Ams and 4 years for the Olympics. And so that's how they planned their whole practice plan. So I sort of worked along that way. And within my clinic, I talk about, well, the basics for sure. we talked about the basics an awful lot, and that's what we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
This is a simple game. It's just very hard to do.
Yep.
So keep it simple, right? Usually when I do a workshop or I'm working with adults, it's like there's two ways of bowling. There's the correct way and there's your way. And generally your way is wrong because you're just selecting the wrong technique or the wrong method. And your technique and method dictate exactly how you're going to, what you're going to average. I mean, everyone's style might be slightly different, but the technique and the method have got to be pretty similar. I talk about medal preparation, tournament preparation, team play, singles play. And in session 9, no one should miss session 9 because that's nutrition. And I always have Rice Krispie squares, granola bars, oranges, apples, and probably smoothies I make too. So the kids really enjoy that number 9.
What about pancakes? I hear you go with pancakes.
I used to do the pancakes for the travel league when we'd started bowling at 10 o'clock in Sherwood Park. Yeah. So when the teams came out to Sherwood Park, we would have a pancake breakfast at our place. And we've had as many as 20 people at our place for pancake breakfast prior to the tournament. Bowlers and parents.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I definitely want to, and this is a little off topic, but when we were talking about level 3, like I said, I really think that we need to have a step above what we currently have. And I think what we currently have is great for a lot of things. It's good. It's good for practice planning. It's good for, the safety of the kids and stuff like that. But I would really love another level where we could teach the coaches the more in-depth things, because that's the knowledge that's disappearing that we really need to get out there.
I don't think we teach enough technical information. I'm very technical, but I don't think we teach enough about the technical part of the game. What to do when things go wrong, or how to adjust to lane conditions. Just knowing your own game. Mental preparation, the pre-shot routine, or how to refocus, or how to stay focused, and that sort of thing. I mean, I'm working with all my young athletes, and I'm certainly giving that information out there, but it takes a long time to practice that stuff.
It does. Yeah.
Do you feel that that just isn't brought up in coaching so much because there isn't enough research done into it? Because you could take a prime example of 10-pin. There's so much information involved because there's so much technology involved that they study biomechanics, they study all that stuff. Is there an avenue for 5-pin bowling where maybe somebody could take that on and bring biomechanics in and really take the time to invest in that, right?
Yeah, there's a lot more information out there for 10-pin, that's for sure. But 10-pin being more of an international game too, which is detrimental to the 5-pin because that's we're only the Canadian group. Yeah. My personal feeling, I don't think enough coaches are knowledgeable, and they don't take it upon themselves to teach themselves more information. Whether you're reading sports psychology books about other sports and how other coaches handle situations, like we talked about the focusing and the refocusing techniques. But again, it's a simple game if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy that we're talking about this, and it's a good talk. I not getting into the politics portion, but I think having some coaching courses or having these things is very important. But I think there's an opportunity down the road to enhance it, right? And I think there's other things where if you go around other people don't believe that there should be any coaching, requirements, right? And I disagree with it because you got to have the fundamentals at least with the kids somehow, or whoever you're coaching, right? Carrie and I had this discussion not even a week ago, and Carrie mentions like if you don't have any coaching, clinics or any coaching criteria, you're not really a sport. And that's a fair solution. That's a fair answer there, right? I do agree that the mental seminars and stuff like that we are missing out on, right? If there's a way we can get that in there or incorporate that, maybe it's maybe not part of the coaching, but maybe it's an additional thing we can get going, right? I mean, like Ernie, we brought in Scott Barber, right? And Scott was fantastic, right? And I will say, out of all the bowlers we had there, we had one, Serena Usman, and what did she do? Down like 3 weeks later, won the Edmonton U Challenge Trials, right? The other gentleman that was there was Brandon Hagen. What did Brandon do?
Edmonton Open.
So I mean, I don't think I need to feed into Scott's ego anymore. I love Scott, but I mean, proof in the pudding, right? If you have the right stuff there, the right mental game, it's going to come around, right? So if you teach,
I don't know about like I've coached in a lot of centers and throughout the years has changed a great deal. I mean, I think our coaching experience has diminished somewhat, or the coaching knowledge has diminished somewhat. I think also sometimes we do it backwards, where our brand new coaches are working with the younger kids, where our more knowledgeable coaches probably should be working with the younger kids and giving them the proper information. I know some coaches teach the way they bowl as opposed to teaching the simple game.
Yep.
Do you feel there's been a loss of interest in like competitive players that, let's say, you pick whatever, I guess 235 plus average players, a diminished capacity to go and coach, and there's no super incentive besides their personal interest in investing back into the game, right? There is no incentive for them to do it otherwise than that.
Well, a number of years ago, there was a coach who was asking, what does it cost you to coach? And I said, what do you get paid to coach? I said, I get paid every day, right there. I get paid by knowing the individuals I have worked with have excelled at the game, or knowing they become a better person, whatever. I mean, money has never been the issue. I've gone to nationals lots of times as the support for that individual that I've worked with all year. So I'm coaching back, in the stands, not being paid for my airfare or the hotel or whatever. I go there and I get paid back by their performance. And they are my
pretty rare breed though, right, Ernie? Like I wouldn't say one of a kind, but you're one of a very few that are willing to put in that time and spend their own earned money into a volunteer situation, essentially, right?
Well, unfortunately, we're able to do that. Not everyone is able to do that, which makes it easier, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm passionate about the game and passionate about those individuals that I've worked with, and they are family. I call them my bowling grandchildren, and they really are.
Granddaddy Ernie.
Yeah.
No, it's true, and they are family.
Yep,
but Carrie did bring up a valid point. You're like the 1 percentile, right? It's not. It takes a special person to do what they're doing on that aspect, right? And I do think you're right, Carrie, because there is a lot of the higher average bowlers that do not give back, and it's not. And I don't maybe that's the wrong way of saying it. Don't coach with that thing. And there's other things out there. I think society has turned out to be really super busy more than everything, right? I've always came to the conclusion, if you can give back somehow, maybe not be coaching, but in some other capacity, I give that person a pass. But if somebody did, 5% of what Ernie did or has done, I think we would be in a much better place, right? So in that aspect. But you're right. There's not a whole lot of high average bowlers that do put forward, right?
And
I think looking just at like the comments that we've seen in the last couple weeks, if not the last years, is like, oh, why do we need coaching? They're trying to reduce coaching. It's because it's probably those people saying are the ones that don't want to invest the time in coaching, right? They don't. It seems so silly to me.
And I agree, and I think Ernie's right. I think you're all right. I think there's a lot of things, economics. It's not great all the time. We have kids. I think when you start seeing people get older, that's when you're gonna start seeing older coaches come in and start being the ones to become coaches. And when their lives start to slow down a little bit, their kids get grown up, or things like that. And I don't want to get super political about it, but like, I think it's problematic when the YBC is our funneling system into the adults forever. YBC is where kids learn how to bowl, where they get better how to bowl. Like that's the only place that you have to get it, and I think it's problematic that there's no coaching requirements for it anymore. Like that to me is bad. When all you need is your rule of two, which is good. Your respected sport, which is good, but you don't need any other training at all to coach YBC, and this is your grassroots section. That is bad. That is problematic. Like,
I think it's also tough for a higher average bowler, like an elite bowler, to work with a young child who's averaging 110.
Right.
Because obviously they're not throwing that many balls on the lane or at the head pin, and it can be frustrating for that individual going, it's a simple game, why can't you do it?
Mm-hmm. Fair.
Yeah.
I'll maybe touch base on my end when it comes to coaching, just my personal experience, right? I don't coach YBC. I will if they need ask help, or I will help out with that aspect. But I am obviously those who don't bowl well coach, right? And I honestly, I'm very, very honored to be picked by the ladies team to coach them this year. I am, but you know what? I felt it was my duty to, if I don't make a team, I should be helping out in some capacity, right? And not saying it's not maybe the right answer, the right way of saying things. I didn't obviously plan to go coach. I planned to play, but it was kind of a backwards thing on that aspect. But I will say the reason why I don't coach YBC, I've never really said it publicly, is when I was helping out, I helped out mom because mom was program director for a while, and we were 18, 19, 20, just getting on YBC. And they needed coaches. And I didn't have the time to, at that point, obviously it took me a while to drive. I didn't have that time to invest into the YBC program, but I would be willing to help out in other ways. But they needed help for four-step coaches. And when I was a four-step coach, I said, hey, mom, like, you give me the team to – I shouldn't be getting a high team to have a chance to move on. I haven't put the time in. Put me on a team that needs to fill in where we think we need to, right? And I was on a team, and the boys played as best they could. And afterwards, I mean, I had 2 practices a week for those 2 or 3 weeks before I heading into zones. So I did make sure we had all that done. Got an email saying how I shouldn't be coaching because I haven't put time into there. And this gentleman sent it to all YBC centers and Grady. And it kind of hurt me because I just was doing it for the love of the game. And from then on, I said, I'm never going to coach YBC. Right. And there's certain people out there that do that. And I said, you know what? I want to give back. I'll give back a different way. That's why I'm not so hard on people not coaching. I understand sometimes there's different things, but I said, hey, I'm willing to give back. And that's how I joined the 5-pin board, actually. So, I mean, if you're realistically speaking, I would never have been on the 5-pin association if it wasn't for that individual telling me about coaching, right? So, took me a long time to come into coaching. Yeah, I don't feel comfortable necessarily all the time with it, but I think there's some value in it. But I think as long as you give back in some way, I'm okay with it. That's how.
Tim, when you got on the 5-pin board, you did a lot for our youth.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I wish like I think with youth bowling, politics is very tough with parents. Right, the simplest way to putting it. Right, so I think that's the toughest part for me when it comes to youth bowling. Right, is the parents, not so much the kids. I think we can ease that out, but the parents are the toughest ones. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Ernie. So you obviously started coaching and started doing all this facilitating for quite a few years. How has your mindset changed over that duration, and how do you look at it now? Do you wish you would have done things differently, or maybe change your ideology a little bit sooner, or are you wanting to go back to the way things were back when you started? How, just kind of, I guess, take a snapshot of how you've developed your coaching and your facilitating over the years.
Well, I think the old NCP program was better than the new program. We taught a lot more technical information as far as I'm concerned. And so coaches really learned, I think, a lot more about the game. There's a lot of soft topics now. That is required, from the new NCCP program and through all sports. And there's nothing wrong with respecting the athlete, because we should. Maybe now we have to be told to, because some people don't understand that concept. Like making the ethical decisions. Not everyone has common sense. Not we've given them the tools to make those decisions now.
Tim, how many times did you have to take making ethical decisions?
Dave and Sheila are on here, so I only took it once. But just don't get me in trouble.
Sorry to interrupt. Continue.
Well, I think I've taken it maybe 6 times. It's over the course of everything. Every time it changes, like I've got to do one more time, or even going through, like I think I've done maybe 60 workshops over the period of time, and people, when I do a workshop, people are going to go, what, it's 19 hours for the comp intro? I don't have that time. I've done this, 43 times already, or the old level 1 or the level 2, whatever it was. It's like, I've done this, put in that many hours, and you're just complaining about one weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know if my coaching philosophy has changed a lot, Carrie. I'm still seeing success, so I guess whatever I'm doing is working.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can always learn. If you're not learning, you're not going forward. I mean, I talk to the boys' father an awful lot. We pick each other's brains. He says he, learns from me. I think I'm learning from him. I can remember when he said in one of my workshops, I looked out and I had 25 people in that one workshop, and there's a coach, and there's a coach, and there's a coach, and the rest won't make it. I mean, they will become trained, but they won't know or understand the information enough to really communicate to the young people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that answers the question, Carrie, but like I said, it's still working right now, so I'm still doing what I did.
No, it was very interesting, because you had said earlier about how our game doesn't have enough technical side of it, and then you had mentioned even in the program itself, it has diminished in the technical side. So it's like the coaching programs or whatever is facilitating that part of it is even gearing away from that, which I wonder if there's of course my mind always works overtime on this stuff, but like Five Pin Universe, we try and introduce new stuff every year. Like we start something every year. I'm wondering if that's even something that we could help take on, like bringing in technicality. Like, do we, like Dexter, do we do stuff with bowling balls? Do we do stuff with lanes? Tim has a thing going through Capstone that might be becoming something that needs to be done with bowling centers, right? So I hate seeing other programs that already are introduced into 5-pin bowling pulling back from the sport. We need to be growing the sport, not pulling away from it.
We need to upgrade our videos. I mean, they've got to be 50 years old. Seriously, and some of them are so bad. I mean, the style, the technique is so bad that if you can't see an error in it, you're blind.
I smell a project.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down for you, Ernie.
It'd be good to have videos that actually showed the right way or a wrong way, and explained even the grip. Why, if your finger or your thumb is held too low in the ball, what that is probably going to cause you to do, particularly young ball.
I got a question, Ernie.
How about tucking your pinky?
You can do whatever you want to
do. Do you think that doing this is a good idea?
Well, that's why this finger hurts so much, because who oh my God, who does that?
Me. It's an adjustment I'll do. If I'm having a hard time, I'll just get rid of the pinky, put it right. Actually, Tom did it every once in a while. Just get rid of it completely, and then I tell you, your rotation changes dramatically.
As I said, when you're 14, you can do whatever you want to do.
Oh, I started this like 3 years ago.
But by the time you're 14, I hope you've learned your own game and you understand how to bowl.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm not going to teach that to start off with.
Oh, I got Tyler to do it. It was great.
I mean, if you're palming the ball, what happens? I mean, for the most part, the ball falls out of your hand. If your thumb is held too low, the ball gets released before you want it to. I mean, that's the error. So, I mean, show the bad thing and show the good thing, and showing what happens when you do this.
Yeah.
So you need actors to show that.
Yeah, so that there's pattern recognition, right? So like, okay, so the cause and effect. You did this was the result, and that's absolutely what we need. And I think new videos are a good idea. We talked about this 5 years ago, Carrie. Where it's like we're gonna start doing instructional videos, because it's something that we pulled so thin that it's hard. But like I really, and we've talked about this for the last couple of years specifically, and like as we go along, I think the need of it is there, and it's more and more. I want to run a weekend clinic, maybe if it's once a year in Sherwood, where we have, it's a Friday night, a Saturday, and a Sunday, and it's all technical. And okay, the Friday night we're gonna do this module, and it's gonna be on practice planning, and then Saturday morning we're gonna have a module on the mental side of the game and relaxation and those sorts of things. And then the next one, we're going to have one on changing angles. We're going to have one on, ball changes, and just like there are so many aspects to this game. And like, yes, the game is super, super simple. It's as simple as you want to make it, but there is so much technical that you could do, or different things that you can do to make the game a little bit easier for you. And that's just pattern recognition with even how pins react. And like, I think there are so many things that we could coach coaches into being better coaches, so that we have more quality players, or more people, not even quality players, more people seeing success, and more people seeing growth in their own game, which stimulates them wanting to stay. Nobody wants to go golf and shoot 120 every time, and then in the next 2 years now you're shooting 140. Nobody wants to do that. You quit. No,
you're mistaken. People do that.
Yeah, but they're the rich dumb ones. And it's like I think it's something that we need to do, and I think we know a lot of quality people and quality communicators that would be able to bring them in. Okay, this person's gonna run this module, and this person's going to run this module.
You said something back there about practice planning. So I know this individual's not watching the podcast, so it's okay, but I won't name who he is. But last night he's running a practice for his double team, going to the regionals in a week. And his practice plan was turn the scoring system on and throw games.
Yeah. Even individuals, there are individuals that I have helped through their bowling career in the last couple of years, and I will give them shit every single time that they go into practice and they start sending me scores, and I'm like, that wasn't the point of the practice. No. You're not there to see scores. That's not practice. You don't go to an NFL practice or an NHL practice and just play a game. That's not what you do. You go and you do your drills and you make your skills better so that it translates in the game. But you're not doing that by just throwing frickin' balls during a game.
No, and the other thing is, Desher makes a valid point, but if you have the scores on and you're working on something, you might not be fully proficient in it. All of a sudden, your scores are not very good, and all of a sudden, you'd be like, this
doesn't work.
It doesn't work. I'm not going to do it, right?
Keep the scores off so that if you don't have the instant feedback, you're not deterred.
Right. And there's a lot. Desher did bring up a good point on everything he brought there, and I truly believe now it's so different, I think, the last 10 years, especially after COVID, is the equipment use, right? Our equipment uses that we use now, it's the same stuff we've had forever, but I find, at least where we are, the weights and sizes, the combination of heels and sliders have become so much bigger than we've ever had in the past, right? And I know that a bunch of us are telling people to become more aware of things, right? A heavier ball sometimes with a smaller diameter still can be useful for people, right? Or for heavier throwers, maybe a lighter ball, right? Deflection and things, right?
I think with the standardization of bowling centers, it's caused that to be more, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Because now everything is synthetics or acrylics. It becomes more consistent out on the lane. But now you have oiling issues, but now your approaches are different from center to center because they have humidifiers, they have air conditioners, they have, I can tell you, when we used to play on wood all the time, yeah, you'd find some sticky spots here and there, but it was I found it easier to slide on wood consistently from house to house. You go from synthetic house to synthetic house, it could be totally different. Yeah, and that's all environment, right?
And then you're going to have different bands. You're going to have different black bases. You're going to have different distances between pins. There's lots of factors out there.
The variations have changed. Yeah.
Where equipment changes are important. You could do things in your approach that are going to make you successful for that time period. You can make those adjustments, but at the same time, if I have the choice of either just trying to slow my feet down and change my rhythm so that I don't drive so hard at the end, or change my sliders and heels so I could slide the way I always do forever and ever, what's going to be more consistent, right? Yeah. So that's where that education it does become important.
It's become more technical in that side of things, right? That's what I think. But
how many people? Okay, you go golfing. Ernie golfs a lot. He probably doesn't do this.
No, I don't golf a lot. I only golf Monday to Friday.
Okay. I didn't say golf well or anything, but what we're when you go golf a lot and you're a professional, you go and you go out and you have your distances, you have your you read your range, you have all the stuff. So when you go to the course the next time, you know what to expect. Now, I'm not saying bowling centers or golf courses, but how many times have we been into a center, and I'm one of them, that we just use up here? Last time it was this or whatever, but no one's ever actually, written down what their adjustments were or made those things, because nobody ever does that. But that's something people should be doing, right?
I can tell you in cameras, don't throw soft roll. I can tell you that right now.
Well, even the difference between 18-inch centers and 17-inch centers. understanding when, like we're bowling on an 18-inch center house, and when the kids are going to a 17-inch center house, understanding that the corner pins are not sitting on the edge of the lane like they are in an 18-inch house. So you've got to make that adjustment right away. You can't throw the ball exactly the same way, expect the same result.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%.
So, little things.
We've seen it. I don't want to pinpoint like female bowlers, but we've seen it in slower ball throwers that with 17-inch centers, they got to get to a heavier ball. They got to get to like, there's an actual adjustment that is already thought about, right? Because the deflection angles are different especially for slower. Like we've noticed it consistently at Bonnie Doon, and I don't want to pick on Bonnie Doon, but we've seen corner pin issues with a slower ball.
But
just
and in reality, Sherwood too. We talk about it all the time too, and like we try to we have worked tirelessly to try to find a solution as to why that is. But it's part of it is the combination of the black bases and those synthetics. Because when we had black bases and wood, that wasn't an issue. As soon as we had synthetics instead, there's more deflection with that as well. So there's a bit of a difference there. But the heavier ball, oh my god! Like I wish, and going smaller and heavier because that size, you notice the size more than you notice the weight. So if you go smaller but go heavier, it almost feels the same, you know. And
but that's good. That's good that all the centers are not scoring exactly the same way.
I agree.
I mean,
I absolutely agree.
Agreed.
You need to be able to walk into the center and saying, "This is what I need to do to score well in this center."
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's that little adjustment of saying, or do I change my angles, or that technical information that doesn't get out there enough.
Yeah. The sport needs variation, right? You can't have everything the same. Then people just wouldn't travel to play other places, right? You just play where you want to.
Well, it's like getting 450 every game. It's not fun anymore.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. But I mean that to me is what makes the elite, right? You're trying to figure out what's going to work best, the fastest, faster than the other people, and that's really what it is. Who can make the adjustment quickest? Who can hold that adjustment quickest? And when it derails a little, who can get back on it as fast as you can?
Or who can make another adjustment, right?
Exactly. Like that's really what makes the game interesting and fun. And like that's I mean I missed the wood for some of that, but I mean that's what I like about our Edmonton Open. And like, you know, it's different because it's two completely different styles of game going from Bonnie Doon to St. Albert. You know, Bonnie Doon, that's a strike game. You're there to throw strikes. You go to St. Albert, you're there to throw strikes and you're there to make spares, right? And I think that's important. It's good to have different styles.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of things that are in my craw right now that I'd like to pass on.
Yeah.
We got the rules guy here. And one
That's
of
you. That's you.
So it's rule number 5, conduct derogatory. So for the longest time, there was 2 warnings giving and a penalty given. It was the first warning and the second warning, you're gone. Then in the 6th printing of the rule book in 2009, there were no penalties. In fact, you had to notify your provincial association on 2 separate occasions, and the individual may force suspension. Now the rule is 3 warnings. First warning, verbal. Second warning, written. Third warning, you could be gone. What is going on?
Yeah, I agree with you. Then
how many warnings do we have to give before somebody is gone?
Oh, I
and why did it change?
Well, obviously you and I, Ernie, have talked about this many times. I don't. Obviously, that's before my time, the 2009. But we put it back in Maybe not necessarily to your liking, but it was put back in. The reason behind, I think, the 3-step process when we talked about it as just that the committee was, we just want to make sure that we were covering all our angles before we let somebody out, right?
We didn't want to offend anybody for breaking the rules.
No. I think a lot of it was also, and it had like, we worry about some hot-headed judge of plays, I think, right?
Yeah,
not you. I want to clarify that, not you.
Oh, no.
And to have the power just to disqualify somebody, maybe his personal vendetta on it, was my big worry on that aspect. Right?
Sorry. So we're discussing derogatory. So isn't that term itself a matter of perspective? Like, who decides what is derogatory?
Yeah,
there needs to be clear, because part of that definition is loud and abusive language.
Right.
What is loud or too loud, and what is abusive?
Mm-hmm.
In the open, the rule generally states in the open NYC is no profanity is allowed. And I remember being a chief judge of play in one of the opens, and in the coaches management meeting, one of the coaches or manager says, "And what words can we not use?" And I said, "Google George Carlin's 7 dirty words."
There you go.
You should have just said them, Ernie. You should have just said them.
For some people, there is no profanity.
Yeah.
There was a young fellow last night. Probably every 4th word was the F word, but that's just the way he talks.
Yeah.
I think and yeah, you're right. And then that's kind of how society kind of is now.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said about tone and context. You know, that's how you could really judge whether it's derogatory or not.
Well, and like you're even saying like loud, like there's positive loud, there's negative loud, there's right. So now that's the hard part about. I think that's where maybe the 3-step process kind of makes sense, because now the verbal warning is from the perspective of the judge of play. Mm-hmm. I believe this is in violation of the rule. They get the warning. Now it becomes written. Now it has to be reviewed by the board, right? This has to be reviewed by the tournament committee. Do they also feel that this falls under the derogatory rule? And then you would think that hopefully a decision would be made on the second written violation, but yeah, I see where you're coming from, Ernie, but it's such a hard rule to say one person gets to decide all of it, right?
So what's an aggressively lofted ball? How far down the lane does it have to go before it's determined?
Shields would tell you.
Okay. No, I think that's the wrong. Sorry, I think that's the wrong way of thinking about it. How far or how high? Because to me, if you're throwing it past that transition where it turns into pine, or where that would be in synthetic, I think that's obviously maybe too far.
Not if it's normal delivery, but if that's your normal delivery, that's your normal delivery. Yeah. It's when your normal delivery is just beyond the foul line, and then after a 3-bagger you punch a head pin.
Mm-hmm.
I know where the next ball's going.
Do you know? I guess if you guys ever watched, I'm not trying to pick on him. It's just naturally out there. Is Dallas Van Dale? Is it Dallas from EA?
From Saskatchewan? Yeah.
Gentlemen, just it's not. It's just his natural thing. It's not a loft. It's just far out there.
Throws it from the hip, and it's. But you know what? Okay, so like off topic, but like when we played against him at 2019 Nationals. We went from Abbotsford, which had no shields. We went to Scottsdale, which did. And that first that practice at Scottsdale, he logged probably 4 over the shield, trying to get it down. And then he did. And he found a way to get under the shield, and then he played great. He averaged 260. He played awesome. So there's ways to do it. I think at the end of the day, for sure. At least in the tournament formats, there just needs to be clear direction. Like, okay, this is what's allowed, this is what's not allowed, just black and white. You need to make it clear. Like, just clear.
So if I kick the ball return but don't knock any balls off, that's okay.
No. Okay,
I
so
think any abuse of the bowling center's equipment is a violation.
I think that's a
100%.
warning. That's a verb. That's your verbal warning.
That's the first verbal warning.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. Yeah.
And if you
Because
attack,
it's not your equipment. Sorry.
and if you
100%.
attack an official,
Well, I think
That's
there's.
a lawsuit. That's a
That's in
lawsuit,
there
is it
too.
not?
I mean, you could technically have your first, second, and third warning if you attack an official. I think probably,
No.
but
you still take one warning, and then the second.
I think there's special circumstances to those things sometimes still, Ernie. But
No.
I
Do
think
you
that
see Tim? Do you see Tim squirming? You see him
well,
squirming?
he's digging his finger as far into his brain as he can get it.
I think.
I'm trying to find the easy button. Yeah.
I
No,
think you got a warning one time.
sorry.
I think you got a warning one time.
Oh, and it was much justified. I can tell you right now. I don't know what was worse, you giving me my warning or my mother yelling at me.
Yeah.
It was 2015 Open at Sher Park, the only time Sher Park ever held the zone trials, and maybe why it's the last. And then I went up there and I was absolutely not very well all day. I was sitting third, and I was off the team by the end of the day. I think it was game 6. I started off with 5 straight plows, and after the 5th plow, the second one went right into the shield, and I just pushed reset and walked away. That was probably the worst attitude I've ever had. And
Did you give him a
came up
warning,
to me-
Ernie?
Ernie came up to me and he said, before he even said a word, I said, "Yeah, I know," and I walked away.
See, and Ernie only threatened me with a warning one time.
I might have.
And-
And you know what? Sometimes you don't get a warning to start off with. You simply get spoken to.
Yeah.
No, I deserved it.
Yeah,
No,
that's fair.
It's
Yeah.
acknowledged.
Yeah.
But don't do it again.
Yeah.
And I've had people do it again and get upset when I gave them the warning.
Yeah, and that's just lack of respect at that point.
Well,
You know, if you're going to give him enough respect to be like, don't do that again, and he does it again, no, that's on you.
but there are
That's kind of
some.
a 3-warning system in itself, isn't it, Ernie?
What's that?
That's kind of a 3-warning system in itself, is it not?
Yeah. I mean, there are some dumb rules, like you can't have 3 balls on the rack.
Ooh, we talked about this one, Ernie.
I know, yeah.
This was my favorite. This was my favorite because I'm just a dink.
Well, I've had others like you
So
who I've spoken to, and they told them they can only have 2 on the rack, and so as they progress down the center away from me, and then come back to me, and 3 balls come back on the rack, that pissed me off.
I mean, there's simple solutions. If you want to have 3 and you're not going to use it, put one on a chair. It's right there. Simple solution. 2 though. 2. This is my personal favorite, and I told you this one time, and you were like, "You're not wrong, but you're an asshole." You're only allowed 3 ball. It says you're only allowed 2 balls in the playing area, and then it's defined playing area from the back of the approach to the end of the lanes. Therefore, in Sherwood, there are 3 spots at the back of the ball rack that are not in the playing area.
You're right. I did call you an asshole.
I had it coming, but I also wasn't wrong.
You won't hear that again. I realize that,
That's your warning.
if I've got some young people listening to this, I'm going to hear about it. So the other thing is long-term athletic development.
Mhm.
I got the impression when we started talking about that, there was some sort of standards when people were going to compete in provincial, national events. And I've been there for the Masters Nationals. I've watched online. I've also been there in person. And oh my God, the seniors, it's cringeworthy sometimes, the bowling. Like, there needs to be some standards for those people going to nationals.
You talking about senior like YBC or senior
No,
masters, or
senior masters.
you mean the long term athlete development?
Oh, it's yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. And there's I don't know what you do sometimes, because hour and 10 a game, that's normal. Hour and 20, that's normal-ish. You're starting pushing into an hour and 40 minutes a game. Like that's a marathon, man.
But if you're averaging 130, 120, averaging under 100, I mean, what's that showing the sport? I mean, compete someplace else, but not at that national event.
Well, and I
I'm
understand what you're saying.
I'm getting older too.
Yeah.
And I'm probably as older or older than some of them, but it's tough to watch.
And look, I understand what you're saying, but they are competing somewhere else already. Like that, the senior division was made for that, right? That's for the people that were competitive. That ultimately, when it started, it was for the people that were competitive. They still wanted to compete, but knew they couldn't compete at that level anymore. And at the end of the day, teaching masters is really no different, but it's critical. It is critical to our sport. And I understand what you're saying, but it is critical to our sport, because that is the 99% of the bowlers, right? So it's good that they have an avenue where they can go and compete and get better, but still away from like the other. Yeah,
Compete regionally.
Is it just for how long it takes them to bowl?
No, it's not the timeline.
Well, because the timeline has gotten worse over the years.
Yes, I've been there.
That's a different.
Told, let them bowl.
Yeah.
I'm saying the expertise is not there. The performance level is just not there.
And you know what, Ernie?
It's because it's POA based, right?
No. Well, I don't think that makes a difference. I really don't think that makes a difference. I mean, that's the base.
It is when you have 120 average players playing, right?
I think this starts from the bottom and moves its way up. And I think.
Okay, what's the lowest you've ever bowled at your level right now? Like
143. I did that Saturday at Cameras.
Okay, but it's like, how can you average less than 150? It's tough. You're throwing a lot of balls,
especially when you're competing. You're playing in a tournament. You're paying your time.
Do you think? Okay, this is a good question for you. Do you think it's tougher to average 260 than it is to average under 140?
If you're trying?
No.
Yeah.
What?
No, I can average less than 100 if I'm trying.
I think it's easier to bowl at 260 than it is to bowl at 140.
Oh, on the body for sure.
No.
mental. I if I was Kerry, I'd probably be thinking, where's the closest bridge?
Oh yeah, I told people when I was leaving, I said, if you see me in the ditch, back over me, please.
But Ernie, and I mean this. I think it starts from the bottom and it moves its way up. And yes, we have that at Masters Nationals and stuff. But leaving YBC. So my last year YBC Youth Challenge was 2006, and then to see where it progressed over the decade after that was tough. It was tough witnessing, and even Youth Challenge I think is a great example. And again, I think it's a good thing to have it's different skill levels to go in there to gain experience. We've
got far fewer kids than we've ever had in the past. We've got 6,000 kids registered in Canada.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
20 years ago, we had 60,000 kids.
No, that's 40 years ago now.
Okay.
But when we were finishing YBC, there might have been 12. Like 12,000 in Canada.
No, there's more.
Way more than that. I get the book up.
I kind of want to, but yeah, we'll take a look at that. But at the end of the day, like to see all of a sudden duplicate teams. So Edmonton's got 2 teams, and these places got 2 teams. We had to average 260 to make a team for youth challenge, and we worked hard to get there. We worked really hard, and like we would go in and we would practice, and we would do a lot of work to try to give ourselves the best opportunity to make those teams, and adding in those additional spots slowly waters that down, and you don't have to put in the work.
Yeah. Okay, so of course, when I first became president of Edmonton way back when, and now Katie kind of understands, and has the same view I had a little bit, was what, like, there's 2 teams. There's a lot. That's a lot of kids, right? And then until you actually go to the youth challenge and see it, right? And I see it as one as a regular team, one as a developmental team. That's how I kind of look at it. And then I also look at in the future, again, we sort of talked about this a little bit earlier, was at least in Alberta, I find that we're not just trying to gear them up for the Open, because that percentile is very small now, right? And, like your top echelon players, but we're looking at the IP and the term teaching masters and other avenues to keep them active, right? I'll be honest with you, partial of the 2 contingents was, I think people forgot, Ernie will know this, and you guys will know this after I explain it, was North had 2 teams when we grew up. We had Northwest, Northeast, right? Central had 2 teams. You had North Central, you had South Central, right? Right? You guys had Red Deer and you had Wetaskiwin.
We had Red Deer and Central.
Red Deer and Central.
Okay. So
it was Zone 4 and Zone 5. It was 8 zones in Alberta.
Right? And then you had Lethbridge and you had Medicine Hat areas, right?
Med Hat, yeah.
Edmonton only had 1. Calgary only had 1. Right? And technically in Alberta we have 5 zones, so only 2 zones had 1 team, right? If you look at it that way. Right? Because Central had 2 teams, right? So now, besides the point, is also gaming funding. We had to spend gaming funds, those 2 zones. So adding the second,
makes most sense. That makes most sense.
So the second, that where that came in, right?
There were also more kids in Edmonton and Calgary as opposed to these other areas.
But Tim, if you're going to sit there and tell me that it's a professional team and a developmental team, then I struggle with that in a way, because what's the point of provincials? I mean, provincials, yeah, obviously you want to win. We all want to win. But like the point of provincials is to go there, hopefully do well as a team, but you also want to make nationals, right? Your point is to make nationals. And if you're going to have a professional team and a developmental team, do you really think it makes a difference? I mean, yeah, they want to be on the first team, sure, but like, do you think it makes a difference? They have equal opportunity to go make nationals at that point. They just want to get to provincials. If you get to provincials, you have an opportunity to go nationals.
I think the developmental team,
and that's happened. I mean, there was an alternate that was off of both of those teams that made it and then went to nationals. So you can't sit there and tell me that one's developmental.
I think that you can say that a lot of those people that are making the second teams out there are there for the experience, right? And it does happen where you have the Brandon Bigrisses and Courtney Millers that made it off as an alternate, right? They have the equal opportunity to make nationals, but when you're asking about why Edmonton or Calgary has a second team, you can say the second team for me was a way of getting these people to have more experiences with the opportunity to go nationals, but it sounds more of a development.
And I understand your perspective and like the view of the board, but do you think that those kids feel the same way? Do you think those kids are looking at those teams that way? Because that's not the case.
They're happy to be there. They're happy to have.
They just want to get to provincials. They're not looking to be on the first team because it's the professional team. They're looking to get to provincials in whatever manner they get to.
Yeah.
No,
How much does the gold medal at Youth Challenge weigh now compared to it did when it was 8 zones? Do you think it weighs just as much?
I think it's the same. I just think the way nationals is built and how we pick our teams out of Alberta, I think the kids are very, how can I say it properly? They have a different train of thought where sometimes maybe they need to work as a team and the individual all-star team will come with it, or they're worried about their scores sometimes before
I
they go
think
national.
I see what Dexter's saying. I think your elite players probably aren't so invested in the team aspect because they don't really have to play super well in order to make it to provincials to give themselves a shot at nationals.
Right,
Correct.
and I think at the end of the, and like this is just my opinion. If you only have the one team from that zone, that is gonna make those kids work way friggin' harder to get there and go to provincials and get better because it's so hard to get there. And then yeah, okay, your team's gonna be better, but like that work ethic getting up to that point is huge. Like that's the reason why we got good is we didn't if we wanted to make four steps, if we wanted to make a youth challenge team, we had to play really, really good and we worked our asses off to do it. And I think having duplicate teams that takes a little bit of that natural work ethic away.
Sides.
Yeah,
I see both
too.
arguments from both sides.
I think Ernie is probably on my side.
Well, I could say the same thing about the Adult Open. In the old days, we probably had 4 times as many people trying to make that one team.
Yeah.
Because there were 4 times as many bowlers.
Yeah.
And we were probably just as good, if not better, than the group going right now. Now, the kids, I don't look at it as being, yes, everyone in Edmonton wants to make the green team, okay, because that's the first contingent, but that doesn't mean the second group of kids haven't worked just as hard to make top 15. There are just fewer kids out there bowling. And the more that we try to eliminate them, the less there will be in the end. We're fortunate in Edmonton with our travel league that gives kids another opportunity to compete. And we used to only have one team in that league. You used to only be seniors, and that's when we had 22 houses in the city. And you better be averaging 2.25, 230 be on those teams. But it didn't give those kids who were averaging 200 an opportunity to compete. And they were just about as good. Now, we can put as many teams as we can into that travel league to get kids competing, which is, I think, what we want.
Right. I think what Dexter's saying is like you're losing the event isn't going to create more need to be elite, right? The event has become more inclusive, and you're right. It's due to the number of kids, right? Oh. But that's a fault of the program or the underlying issue that 5-pin bowling is just falling out. That's not the Youth Challenge's issue. The Youth Challenge has become more inclusive to create more kids in the program, but it's a YBC issue. It's a proprietor's issue that we're not bringing children into their centers. There's an underlying issue. It's not the event issue.
Yeah, that's
the event is just facilitating more inclusive and less elite, or not pushing the elite status so much.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what?
Now
you're
it's
right.
Right.
I think like if you do a deep dive in things, obviously the youth program has dwindled. Obviously, there have been so many centers that closed, right? I mean, and that's also a huge dilemma with it too. I don't know, I don't know if it's necessarily Bull Canada's fault on the entire dwindling of numbers. If there was, but I think there's ways of them or of associations working together to try to come up with a plan to help the situation out, right?
To be fair, Tim, you could boil it all the way down to economics. Economics is the issue, right?
Economics and diversification of sporting available for kids. Like, when
completely
YBC was at
changed.
when YBC was at its height, I mean, indoor soccer and those sorts of things were not a thing, right? There were so many accessible options to kids all the time, for both genders, that it's it definitely took its toll on YBC, and I don't think that that's a fault of Bowl candidate. I think losing TSNs and CBCs was a huge deal,
Yeah.
because having it seen on TV made it cool, made kids interested, and having that out of regular success. But it's true.
No, okay, yeah, that's fair. But I hate to say it, from somebody who works at a center, family owned and operated. I never once said I want to. I never
But
made
did
it.
you watch it?
Everybody watched it.
Yeah,
Everybody watched it.
but it wasn't. It wasn't for me. It wasn't. It wasn't. I gotta go home and watch it. It was, oh, cool, it's on TV, right? Right. And that now I got more nerdy into that stuff, where I used to, like, now I watch it, like, that stuff, right?
I think it was the
I remember
fact
when
that,
Jon
like,
Stone had hair, right? Like,
if you
things
if you
like,
if you had kids now, Tim, you sat down because you would watch it because it's on TV and it's something that you're interested in. Your kids see that you're watching it, and that's what builds the interest, right? It's not at that age. Yeah, sure, you might not have been so interested in it, but you knew it was on television because your parents put it on television, or
it
right?
was subliminal, I think, a lot of it, right? You don't think about it.
Like my parents bowled, and my sister bowled. She was a very good bowler as a young bowler. I mean, that's how I got into the game. My younger brother bowled for a couple of years, but my parents bowled. How many parents of your YBC kids actually bowl league play?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, not many of them. I bet. Not as many as used to.
Yeah.
And thinking back to the old days where there was 9 o'clock leagues and 11 o'clock leagues in the morning, and then there was a 3 o'clock league in the afternoon, and there was a 7 and a 9 o'clock league.
Yep.
Now our
Exactly.
7 o'clock league starts at 6:45, and there's no one after us.
Yeah.
Open play wasn't an issue because there was no lane time for open play.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Off topic slightly.
Yeah.
Off topic slightly. After the open on Saturday, we went to Shitty's distillery, Sea Change Distillery, but it's, for those that don't know what it is, it's their tap house, but it's got burgers and stuff in it, but it's called the Rumpus Room. It looks like it's from 1970s. It looks like grandma's basement. It's got wood paneling everywhere, but up on the TVs everywhere, they're always playing like 1970s, 1980s PBA bowling. And I think it's awesome. It's really cool. But every time we're there, the guy knows us as bowlers, and I was like, we got to get some 5-pin bowling on there. And he's like, well, do you have old school stuff? And I think if we get Bowl Canada to give us some like old TSNs and stuff, or old CBCs, I bet you we could get that. We could get the 5-pin up in there too, which I think would be really cool.
On YouTube.
Yeah,
A lot
they were putting some up and then taking it down and putting it up and taking it down. But
VHS, I think it's called, has a bunch.
yeah,
Of,
if we can get a couple of copies of those, I think it'd be cool to put in there so they can have that going in there. Not that it's going to make any difference, but it's just kind of neat.
Ernie,
yes.
sorry.
Yeah. So go ahead, Tim.
I maybe just to finish the topic, or maybe just carry it on a little bit. But how do you think we fix the numbers of youth bowling?
Oh man.
I mean, you have Shelby's Way in Red Deer where they get free bowling, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, some centers can't do that. So, like, what is?
Has it carried on? I haven't talked to Shelby about that. Has it carried on this year?
Yeah,
like
it's done very well.
And you still got the same numbers.
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, bowling is very affordable when you think about it with other programs. It really is. And you have the option of, we always allow pre-bowling, which hockey doesn't allow pre-scoring.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sort of thing. Man, I've been doing this so long. I mean, I just don't understand why people don't stay involved. I could think about our Thursday night league where we've had teams leave our league because they felt we were too competitive. We had points every week for all the teams. We had cash prizes for high averages and high singles, and it seemed like always the same people were getting those high games or high averages. We had playoffs where people got into separate divisions, and they were always in the lower group because they were there just for the social night, just to have fun, and then it's like, what is fun? And it's different for everybody.
Yep.
Like, I didn't have fun last night. Well, I didn't throw the ball very well, so it wasn't working very well, that's for sure. But, and so we lost 4 teams because they felt we were too competitive. And I think every league has that group which competes, but the other group which is just there for night out.
Yep.
And we all bowl together, but just at a different level, and it's all handicapped, so it should be fair for everybody. But they think some of us take it too serious.
So I'm kind of an analytical person when it comes to our memberships. I looked at our memberships, I looked at the numbers, and I actually have it here. But you always wonder. So this year we're up in numbers, and please keep in mind these don't include doubles, right? But we lost 150 bowlers last year. We have just under 800 people, not including Special Olympics or Sunshine, right? So we have just under 800 people unique. So some of them play double leagues, but we lose 150 people a year, right? And so if you look at them, in my mind, that's a lot of people. Like that's 2 nights a league, right? That's 2 nights a league in our center, right? And so I know when you look at the dwindling numbers and stuff, I always wonder, okay, we are filling it up, we are replacing those people, but I almost want to know what the reason was. I know sometimes it's the length of the season, sometimes it's the commitment, it's this and that, and all these other things. But when it comes to youth bowling, it's something that I worry about too. Is it the length of the season, right? And in my head, like as selfishly as it is. I know we take enough courses out there. You can do an 8 for 8. You can do 8-week sessions or half a season, right? My big worry is I know right now for adult leagues, it's filled. So don't break something that's working, right? Might as well keep it there because they're committed for 30 weeks. That's a lot easier than 215 or 4 8s, right? But I can't imagine during busy Christmas season and stuff like that trying to do a registration push for the next half of the season, right? I think it would be lost in translation, right? So when it comes to that aspect, I don't know what the right answer is for YBC because I know, like, if you look at it, it's 30 weeks. It's a school season basically, right? It's a long time. On Sunday YBC, we did something differently. We have a ton of tournaments in YBC. In Edmonton area where we're having out of 30 weeks, you're going to have a tournament, 26 of them possibly, right? Yep. And I found that with our youth bowling on Sundays, our numbers were much lower when we had a later or more of a lengthy event in the morning, and they weren't pre-bowling. They weren't showing up. So we ended up doing 21 weeks of four games instead of 30 of 3. And our numbers are much better when it comes to people showing up and being committed, right? So you have to work around some things, but it doesn't still draw. We're still under 80 to 90 bowlers every year. I don't know how to draw, right?
A Sunday program. Like I don't think you boys were in the YBC at Sherwood Park when they had a Monday night program.
Yes.
For the seniors.
Yeah.
That's when I was coaching out at Sherwood Park yet. And when that moved to a Sunday night, I knew that was going to be too much of a conflict because we ran a lot of tournaments Sunday morning, and then you're trying to bowl again Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see an issue there. I think the kids drop out of the YBC program because they're not as proficient as those who are successful. Either they don't accept the instruction and coaching, don't want it, and then they realize they're not as good as that other person, and therefore I quit. It's much like school. Which kids love school? The ones who are doing real well. And which kids don't like school? The ones who are struggling.
Yep.
Down in the subject or two.
Yeah.
Do you think things are more results oriented nowadays than ever?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't look at that. I mean, I want to help all the kids, but all the kids don't want help. And you don't get better unless you get help. You really don't. It's tough to do it on your own.
Yeah.
Like you need good direction.
Yep.
Like I was a lousy student in school because I had bad study habits. In fact, I had no study habits. And not that I didn't like school. I got through, but if gym class was all day long, I would still be there.
Yeah. I took phys ed 33 times.
Yeah.
Fail phys ed?
No, I took it just because I needed to fill time.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But those kids who love school are the ones who do well.
Yep.
Those who love the bowl, who really love the bowl, and are those who are doing well, because every week they want to compete.
I mean, Carrie, look at Ron.
Yeah.
Right? The guy just started bowling again after like 40 years, and he loves it. He's watched everything. He watches every podcast. He watches every 5PL. He watches all the old stuff. He knows every single player in the game. Every single player in the game.
Don't be giving that guy some shout outs.
But
Ron
he's
loves
like 17,000 years old, and he's getting better and better.
Okay, so Ernie, there's a gentleman that bowls
Gentleman is a very
That's a
loose
strong
term.
word.
and he's probably what 65, probably around that, probably 65.
Yeah.
And he bowled one league. Now he's bowling another daytime league, and then Dexter and Carrie's team and Katie's team was looking for a fifth, and he was asking, and they accepted him. And he's probably the most vulgar out of all four of them, out of all five of them there.
Yeah.
And he fits in like a glove, but he's averaging 230. Like he's not like he's a slouch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he bowling Club 55?
He is.
Oh, he is.
He's bowling that and an ATCO utility retiree group, and then on our debacle of a team.
Yeah, I've been asked if I'm going to join the seniors league.
Mm-hmm.
Do it.
No.
Ernie, like I'm telling you right now,
You can
I
tell
would
me
join
tomorrow
the
if you want
seniors
to.
league. I would join it.
This is the discussion I had with Gino on Sunday. I'm never joining senior masters. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It'll be the day I die.
But those are our seniors anyways, because we know them. They are awesome, and a lot of people like Ron. And you get to learn to know them, and you get to realize that they're just big kids too, and you can say whatever the hell you want.
We're gonna wrap this up, Ernie. We have one pressing question. I've been bugged about it a little bit. We need you to answer this, and then we can wrap this up. What's your thought on space slope?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Katie, please. I won't be able to sleep tonight.
What is this about?
Well, Katie started a rant about what she was teaching her grade 4 class about space and the universe and the planets and black matter, which I said don't matter at all.
Yeah.
And I said, don't fill my head with this useless information, because what's going to happen is there's going to be some good stuff that's going to fall out of my head. And so next day we arrived at Sherwood Park or St. Albert, and she's talking about all this, and it's like, oh my God, quit doing that, because I'm going to forget where I live next, because that important stuff is going to fall out of my brain, because the brain can only hold so much information.
Dark matter is really interesting, though. You should look it up.
Did you not hear what I said? It don't matter.
What about antimatter? Antimatter is really interesting too.
Are we ready to sign off?
Yeah. Thank you
First
very
guess
much,
has to
Ernie.
Unfortunately, I'm going to see Tim again this weekend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be
Yeah.
down there too.
Oh, will you?
Perfect.
And I
We're
get,
gonna-
Ernie says he's buying everybody popcorn.
yes.
All right. Well,
that's a
will,
verbal contract, guys.
we'll sign
Enjoy
off
your
on
popcorn.
Okay.
Ernie, thank you so much for coming on and having this enlightened discussion. Obviously, we could spend more and more hours talking about this, but very interesting topics. And I hope our community gets involved and lets us know their thoughts. And maybe we come up with a plan of attack and not only fixing the world, but fixing 5-pin bowling.
Yeah, well, I appreciate being asked, and this is off my bucket list now, so I guess I can retire.
Thank
No,
you.
no.
Honestly,
I'm
thank you for
reevaluating.
everything you've done for the game. We sincerely appreciate it, Bigger.
I appreciate that. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, so everybody tune in on the weekend, watch some Youth Challenge Nationals or Youth Challenge Provincials out of Alberta, and if you're not, see you Sunday morning. Crushers are back in action for the 5PL.
Oh, I'm back, baby.
Crushers. All right, have a good night, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. We're going to end the stream?
I guess I'm the one doing this. All right.